All right, Garen Emig and Bill Haisten, a couple of sports columnists taking a break from writing, do a little talking about sports and things that are in our midst as we crank ahead this week. We're moved now, by the time you watch this, from college basketball season, gearing up a little bit more toward spring football. And we might touch on football before we're done here, Bill. But first, while we have it, and because we're both basketball fans, and it's been a fabulous tournament to sink our attention into. Well, let's start with the fun stuff. Your rating of the semifinal epic between UCLA and Gonzaga. How high does it go?
Well, I was so encouraged that UCLA matched them basket for basket early, and I thought, okay, maybe we've got a watchable game here. Because I'm telling you, Garen, if you had asked me before the semifinals, if you'd have said one of these is a classic, one of these is an unwatchable blowout, I would have guessed the other way around.
Right.
It's Houston Baylor as a classic.
Right.
Gonzaga blowing UCLA off the bracket. And so UCLA hangs close all night. They're down a point at the break. I think they trailed by no more than 7. But even when they trailed by 7, there was never any panic. And I thought we may have a really interesting finish here.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're talking about whether it was the greatest game ever played in the tournament. I'm not willing to go that far, but it's one of, for sure, the greatest ever played in the tournament, and certainly one of the great Final Four games ever. No, I was the last 6 minutes of regulation and the overtime, Garen. I think I forgot to breathe. It was that good. Really riveting basketball.
It was a treat. And you mentioned the lopsided nature of the first semifinal between Baylor and Houston. All full credit to the Bears for playing so well. But for you and I, who both covered Kelvin Sampson for the Tulsa World on the OU beat at different stages of our time, it wasn't always smooth, even with the media. Kelvin could be a hard guy. That's how he is, right? He has that chip on his shoulder, and it's never going to get knocked off. He's obviously came up against some NCAA trouble at the end of his run at OU and did him again at Indiana. So a lot of people still can't get past that aspect of him. But for you and I and those who've invested a few years of our careers in covering him, I think it's safe to say we actually enjoyed seeing him back in the national limelight.
Yeah, no, in hindsight, I guess I shortchanged to Baylor with an expectation that Houston would really be able to stay within a couple of possessions in that game. Baylor is really, really good. And I think you have to even ask the question, where does Baylor rank among the best teams in the history of the Big 12? Mm-hmm. I still think a couple of Bills, Kansas teams would clearly be that at the very top, but right. This Baylor team is really special. So, yeah, I loved that Kelvin got back to the Final Four. To do it with two schools kind of cements you as a I don't know where he is on his all-time win totals. He's right at 700. But to me, Kelvin is to take two programs to the Final Four at some point, you get to really consider him maybe as a Naismith Hall of Fame guy. So, and it's such there's such a familiarity with the, Quantas White is on the bench,
right?
Price is on the bench. Lauren Sampson's the director of operations. Kellen Sampson is the head coach in waiting. So there's just such a familiarity for so many Oklahoma people with, the Sampson culture at U of H. So I was really hopeful they could, not that I'm anti-Baylor, but I was hopeful that U of H could, pull an upset and advance to the finals. But we have the championship game that everybody really wants. And that, clearly the two best teams. So with all due respect to UCLA as an 11, holy cow, what a run they had. Mm-hmm. So, and it's good for college basketball that UCLA apparently is healthy and trending, back to a championship level. That's good.
You mentioned 3 of Kelvin's assistants just now. All 3 were named at one time or another as possibilities to different degrees in the OU search. Mm-hmm. White, Price, and Kellen Sampson. We have a name now and a new man to replace Lon Kruger in Porter Moser. Your reaction to his hiring, and do you have any clue as to how it's going to work? I was I think hopeful is the best. I think hopeful is a good word for it, given this, what he's done at Loyola, given his demeanor, his personality. As I wrote in the column Sunday, it should work, but this is a step. He's stepping up in class. Let's just put it that way. We'll see if it works.
Right. Well, I mean, all right. You say, how would I rate the hire? Well, first of all, you have to draw a line between the reasonably attainable candidates and those who aren't.
Sure.
And because I've never believed that OU is ready or willing to go to, what is Texas going to pay Chris Beard? Really? I mean, he already was the 4th highest paid guy in the country. So he didn't go there for the same money, I can assure you. So let's say Texas is going to pay Chris Beard $7 or $8 million. And it may have been reported, but I haven't seen it. OU ain't going to do that.
Right.
They're not going to do that. So, but Porter Moser was actually a really well-paid mid-major guy in Chicago. So, if I find out that Moser negotiated a $4 million contract at OU, I'm not going to be shocked by that. But what I do like about Moser is like, if you look at his top 8 guys this season, and there were a couple of them who aren't any more athletic than you or me, and yet he got maximum results from them.
Sure.
Obviously, he can scheme it up. He has had 2 teams now do this at Loyola Chicago, which to me, if he had done it once, you think interesting candidate. If he does it twice, you think if he's not on the Chris Beard level of college basketball stardom, he's on the next level. I just thought he was of the guys you reasonably pursue and get his ear and have him really consider you. Porter Moser's probably the number 1 guy for Joe Castiglione. So that's a really long-winded way of saying I think it is a tremendous hire. Now, I was fired up before that about Kellen Sampson, possibly as a 35-year-old guy and a former Sooner, and still believes he is a qualified guy who will have a great run at U of H. But if you can get Porter Moser, you got to get him.
Yeah, well, they did. And it's being met with a lot of enthusiasm, I think, by the base. I'll say this, Bill. Of course, the plaudits that were in that statement that we read over the weekend from Oklahoma were what you'd expect them to be, from Joe Castiglione to Joe Harris, the president. Lon Kruger texted me that night with some nice thoughts. I did hear from a couple of Oklahoma rival coaches throughout the day that lent more credence to how well they thought this would work. They don't have to say anything nice about the hire. They volunteered nice things. That bodes well, I think, for Moser. So we'll see how it works out. Let's see, president news at TU and OSU. Might as well go ahead and shift our attention there real quick before we get out of here. What were your thoughts on and this all trickles down to athletics. This is why I bring this up, right? We've learned more and more not to ignore the highest office on campus having an impact on what happens athletically. So what do you think? What do you think about what's going on there?
Well, from the day that Burns Hargis announced that his retirement was imminent, and it is, he steps away on June 30. Casey Schrump's name was the first one I heard. There were 2 names. The Baylor president, who was an OSU grad,
Linda Livingstone,
and then Casey Schrump. So and then all I heard from the football people during the summer, as everybody scrambled to formulate protocols and plans and testing, for something that was unprecedented. I mean, everybody was kind of learning on the fly, and everybody at OSU in football hailed Casey Schrum and her people here at OSU Medical,
right?
OSU Tulsa, as having been like massively helpful in helping organize a testing plan over at Oklahoma State. So there's at least that recent history of her interacting with football and being in the room and making eye contact with Mike Gundy and players, you know what I mean? And being in that culture a little bit. So, but really the challenges that she faces now extend way beyond, just getting to know football and the football culture. It's the aftermath of, and this goes for the new Tulsa president, Brad Carson, too. I mean, the finances the financial challenges for higher education for the next bunch of years,
Mhm.
and especially the next 2 or 3, but is going to be, as unprecedented as those testing protocols.
Right.
Because, I mean, really, especially, I would say like 84, was that the year that OU and Georgia successfully broke off?
FCA or CFA.
Guaranteed money has just flowed
Right.
like honey.
Yeah.
Almost 40 years, and now that's changing. So we'll see. I mean Brad Carson, like I looked at his Wikipedia page after it was announced he had become the Tulsa president, and if you read that man's list of achievements and his qualifications and what he did academically, and he went to Jenks High School. It's from Winslow, Arizona, which of course is famous for being an Eagles lyric. So I wonder if he's ever stood on a corner in Winslow. I bet he has, though. And there's a statue of the Eagles in that town, which I think is cool too. But so he hails from Winslow, Arizona. He went to Jenks High School. He went to Baylor. He was a Rhodes Scholar. He went to OU, got his law degree, and has served President Obama in the Defense Department. I mean, you talk about high level of responsibility and achievement. Brad Carson's the new guy at Tulsa. Dr. Casey Shrum is the new woman at Oklahoma State. So 2 apparently unbelievably qualified, impressive people in those jobs who are stepping into a bleep storm of unprecedented athletics challenges on finances. For sure.
Yeah, and one more thing. Again, the here and now is vital, and as you make very clear. I'll say this: something to bookmark for 2 or 3 years. All of a sudden, we're just 2 or 3 years away from this stuff. Those media rights deals start to expire, especially with relationship to the Big 12. We all remember what happened the last time. Yeah. The media rights landscape shifted. Realignment just went off the rails, or at least talk of realignment went off the rails. It didn't quake like we thought it would, but I promise you that Casey Shrum in particular in relation to the Big 12 is going to be a central figure, as all presidents and chancellors in that league will be, when we get close to the media rights renegotiations and the next seismic either shifting or talk of shifting. Right.
Hey, when all that went down 10 years ago now, think about that. It's been 10 years now since that famous summer of uncertainty, and OU to the SEC and OSU,
right,
or both to the Pac-12, or who knows. And for a few days there, nobody really did know. And then it's like, well, we're gonna stand pat with this till 2025. And I'm thinking, well, that's forever. That's way down. I mean, we'll never actually get to 2025. We are. You're right. And what will it look like? Will it be are we going to dissolve the conferences as we know them and have just a super heavyweight division and a heavyweight division, or
right,
the Power 5 plus Notre Dame and just set out in your own super heavyweight division? I don't know. I don't know if the conference model. I don't know. I mean, just how relevant and how necessary is that now? What I mean? Or can you create 4 16-team divisions and kind of play it out like a giant NFL? I don't know. I can tell you what, though, Garen, whatever makes them more money is what they're going to do.
Yeah. No, it'll make our jobs a lot more interesting. Now, assuming we still have them in the media landscape, who knows? But assuming you and I, Bill, are writing for the Tulsa World, that might be a lot of what we write about come 2024 and 25. All right, we wanted to talk.
We will still be writing sports for the Tulsa World in 25. I'm
going to hold you to that.
Time goes about that quick.
I'm going to hold you to that. We wanted to get to football, but we got to get out of here. I promise next week you and I will talk about college football, spring football in particular. The Hurricane have an official spring game all of a sudden in less than a week. So we've got to visit about Davis Brin and TU football, Philip Montgomery, Sooners and Cowboys, which we've gone long enough now without talking about OU and OSU football. We'll get to that as well next week. In the meantime, read us throughout this week as we keep up with football, basketball, and anything else on the horizon. Have a good week, Bill. Good seeing you again.
I'll see you.